Yo, 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 what up, man? It's your boy Rap Sneaks back with another episode. Damn you two sports talk. Uh like, share, subscribe, man. If you haven't done it already, man, please head over YouTube, Damn You Two Sports Talk, subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can get notified when new content releases. If you want to head over to IG, follow the sports page. It's damn underscore YouTube underscore sports talk. If you want to follow me personally on IG, it's Ralph underscore sneaks. X damn YouTube sports talk. You can follow me over there. It's all scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, man, back with another episode, man. Glad to have y'all tuning in, man. I appreciate the love and support. Um, Another episode 32. I think is what we on, man. We're gonna get into this the mid season, NFL mid season, the report, um, divisions, teams, the pretenders versus the contenders. You know what I'm saying? At this point, you can pretty much see who is who. There's still some teams that there's a few teams that are surprisingly in the position they in, whether it's a good surprise or a bad surprise. Uh, you know what I'm saying? We slightly, 17 games, week 10, so we're a little bit slightly past the halfway point of the season. You know what I'm saying? So this is you can pretty much see who is who, where they going. You can see who is a contender, who is a pretender. You know, outside of injuries and stuff like that, man, because you never know when stuff like that can happen. But it happens. As football is a contact sport. We don't hope, we wish for that not to happen to nobody, but it happens. Um, the trade deadline is passed. There were teams that made moves. There were teams that didn't make moves. There were teams that weren't able to make moves if they wanted to make moves. Um, but yeah, man, let's get into it. Let's break this down. Um, Mid-season report for these divisions. We're gonna start in the AFC. Let's go with the AFC East. Um, the Buffalo Bills are 8-2. They lead that division. I'm not sure what Buffalo. To me, Buffalo. I didn't think Buffalo was gonna be 8-2 considering what they lost in the offseason. Stephon Diggs gone. Gabe Davis gone. Um, they lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball because they were having cap space issues. So some guys had to leave in free agency. Some guys got released. So for them to be 8-2 right now, I think that's a good sign. But I'm not sure how far in the playoffs they're gonna go. Damn good job right now by Sean McDermott. Considering that he was one of the guys that I had on the hot seat this season. Even though he lost a lot, I still think that the Buffalo Bills was going to have him on the hot seat because this was the year he had to get something done. And he may have had a grace period because of what they lost, but now I think that him being 8-2, that could be a gift and a curse. It's a gift because you 8-2 and you wasn't expected to be 8-2, but it's also a curse that if you get in the playoffs and you don't win, you can no longer say what you didn't have because you sitting at first in your division with an 8-2 record. You know what I mean? So that what you didn't have excuse is no longer in your back pocket. Now if you were barely, if you barely got in the playoffs, and when I said barely got in the playoffs, I mean you got in the playoffs because you won a game that you needed to win, and another team lost a game that you needed them to lose in order to get you in. You got in by somebody else losing. That's what I mean. You barely got in. If you get in that way and then you make a slight run or whatever, win a playoff game, now that's different. But if you go 8-2 in the regular season, you get in and get bounced in the playoffs in the first round of your first game, that ain't good. So that excuse of you not having certain players because of how much you lost in free agency this offseason or whatever, that excuse now goes out the window because you're sitting at 8-2. Now that excuse still will be valid. Like I said, if you barely made the playoffs and you were struggling throughout the season, you barely got in because you won a game you need to win and a team lost a game you need to lose to get you in, you can still use that. But now you're sitting at 8-2, first in your division. You know what I mean? You're 3-0 in the division. You're on a 5-game win streak. That excuse is gone. So we'll have to see what Buffalo do in the playoffs. Keon Coleman, the rookie wide receiver, he hasn't really stood out like that. You know what I'm saying? They made the trade for Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper ain't really done much since he's been there. He's been dealing with injury. Even when he's been out there, he hasn't really been effective stat wise. You know what I mean? Putting up the type of numbers, but so far it's just Josh Allen distributing the ball to different wide receivers. It just seemed like Josh Allen feels comfortable not having to really target one guy 12 times, 13 times. He can just freely distribute the ball to whoever open or whatever the defense give him. You know, he's doing it that way. He's doing it with his legs. And then you got James Cook, a guy that can run between the tackles, outside the tackles, a guy that you can also dump the ball off to in the passing game. And he slide him out, not just in screen passes, but you can actually put him in the formation as a slot guy. You know what I mean? So he can actually line up, run routes, and he's got good hands for a running back as far as catching the passes. So now you add that in the mix. It's kind of like they just playing freely without having one particular guy that they have to target 12 times a game. And I ain't throwing no shots at Stephon Diggs, but I'm just saying it looks better from the outside looking in. It just looks better when he's distributing the ball to wherever the defense is giving it to him, you know, without having to actually force it in to somebody a certain amount of times a game, or, you know, they feel like that's a little pressure off of Josh Allen's back. Now, like I said, what they do in the playoffs, we don't know, you know, but they're gonna have to make some noise in the playoffs because we all know that Super Bowl window is not always open, and when it's open, it ain't open for long. So you got to capitalize when you got the opportunity to. But as far as the Miami Dolphins sitting at 3-6, second in division, you got to understand they lost Tua for some games, and I don't understand. You know, this is me personally. I wouldn't be back. You know, dealing with the concussion issues if I had them that way. And then I don't know if y'all seen it, but I think after he threw it was an interception he threw. He tried to make a tackle leading head first. That, and for somebody that's have concussion issues, that ain't the way you need to tackle. If anything, you need to get the hell out the way and let somebody else do it. Just I don't know, throw your body in there and make it look like you're trying to make a tackle, but really you just trying to get the hell out the way. You know, hoping that he cuts back into somebody that can't actually make the tackle or whatever, or you push him out of bounds or whatever. But leaning head first to make a tackle and you're a concussion-prone quarterback, that ain't the move. We haven't really heard a whole lot of explosiveness from Tyreek Hill this year due to Tua being out most of the season. They went and got a quarterback off a practice squad, I think from Baltimore's practice squad. Can't remember the guy's name. I think Huntley might be his name. But, you know, they got a much-needed win Monday night at the LA Rams. But I don't see the Miami Dolphins doing much of nothing. They sitting at 3-6. And right now, this is probably one of the worst divisions in football. You know, the Buffalo Bills got such a big lead in that division at 8-2, and the next best record is 3-6. So, you know, Buffalo is kind of run. The Buffalo, it is, I ain't gonna say kind of, they are running away with that division. One of the most disappointing teams this season, New York Jets, sitting at 3-7. They third, tied with the New England Patriots. Both got a 3-7 record. Now, if you the New York Jets, you got all kind of issues going on over there. They call themselves trying to blame Robert Saleh, the head coach. They fired him. He's gone. And now you're having worse issues without Robert Saleh as your head coach than you had with him as your head coach. The one thing you had in your favor with Robert Saleh as your head coach was you had a good, solid defense. But now your defense is kind of going downhill without Robert Saleh. You still ain't got Aaron Rodgers on the same page with his offense. You know, Devontae Adams, the trade right now is just looking like a wash. It looking like it didn't do a damn thing for the Jets, but get two guys back together that already played together in Green Bay. But as far as making an impact on the field, winning games, and putting up the numbers, they ain't doing a damn thing with that since Devontae Adams came over there. You know, Breece Hall's pretty much been non-existent in the run game. And that was one thing that the interim coach said that they were going to do with this offense after Robert Saleh got fired and he took over the play calling duties as the head coach. They said that they were going to establish the run game and get that going, but that has yet to happen. You know, Devontae Adams is yet to make an impact. The Jets defense has been going down since the Robert Saleh firing. So everything they wanted to do or tried to do or blame Robert Saleh for is backfired on them because they, in so many words, tried to make it seem like he was the issue, he was the problem. When you got a diva as your quarterback and you can't get shit going. So we've seen the best of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' best days are behind him. I think the Jets, what they need to do is they just need to go ahead and look forward to life after Aaron Rodgers. It ain't worked out like they thought it was going to work out since he got here. Now, he had a devastating Achilles injury last year, and he missed all of the season. So coming back this year, there should be no excuse why he shouldn't bounce back. Kirk Cousins, and I keep saying this, Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles after Aaron Rodgers tore his. And Kirk Cousins came back, and now the first couple games, Kirk Cousins didn't quite look like Kirk Cousins. But since then, Kirk Cousins went back to being what we know Kirk Cousins to be. I don't understand why the hell Aaron Rodgers can't. They've done everything for this guy that he asked and wanted them to do, and they still can't get right. So it's just a matter. It's just a matter of the grass ain't always green on the other side as you think it is. And Devontae Adams, I mean, they got him over there, and like I said, he ain't did a damn thing. It's a wash. You pretty much could have stayed out there in Vegas for what he's bringing, what they've been able to do with him since coming over to the Jets. They ain't been able to do a damn thing with him. And like I keep saying, man, they won 7 games last year with Robert Saleh as the head coach and Zach Wilson as the quarterback. Now, you ain't even on pace to win 7 games this year with Robert Saleh fired and Zach Wilson gone. He's out there in Denver. Now you have Aaron Rodgers back for a full season, and you ain't even on pace to win at least 7 games in which you won last year without Aaron Rodgers with Robert Saleh as your head coach. So that says a lot about the Jets organization. I think they just need to retool. They need to go ahead and look at the future. They need to wrap this shit up that they got right now at MetLife because it ain't working. So they need to go ahead and get started on a head coach search. They don't need to wait till the offseason and see how this season going to go. We already see how this season going. Ain't no need to keep trying to put nothing into this season when you're so far behind in the division with only 3 damn wins. Go ahead and get started on the head coach search. Go ahead and get started on which direction this franchise is going into the offseason, into the draft, into free agency, because this is a wrap for this season. Go ahead and look at life after Aaron Rodgers because it's a wrap for him too. The Patriots sitting at 3-7. I mean, the Patriots are where I thought the Patriots were going to be, last in the division. I mean, there really was nothing to think that the Patriots were going to be better than last in this division anyway. I'm just surprised at the fact that the Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots all got 3 wins. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots don't finish last in this division. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets finish last in the division and the Patriots won a couple more games this year. So looking at the way things going for the Jets, they ain't going no damn where. So that's pretty much what the NFC East is. The only team over there that's really gonna be doing anything or is doing anything is the Buffalo Bills. Like I said, the jury still be out on them in the playoffs, but we'll find out when they get there. Because they will be there. They're gonna easily win that division. Unless something dramatic happen, unless they just get hit with hella injuries for extensive time. And I don't know what the hell these other 3 teams are going to do to make up ground with only having 3 wins so far, and the Buffalo Bills are sitting at 8-2. Moving on, AFC North. Now, what I didn't predict was the Steelers being 7-2, tied with the Baltimore Ravens for first in that division. Those other 2 teams, the Bengals and the Browns, I think that the Cincinnati Bengals they gave up a lot on defense, in favor of the offense. They franchised T. Higgins. He got the bag, but T. Higgins has been injured. Joe Burrow, they put up hella stats. They just don't equate the wins because they will score 34 points, but then give up 37. So, and there have been some games this season like that, such as the 2 games they dropped to the Baltimore Ravens. They put up hella numbers against the Ravens, but they both resulted in losses. So you're looking at the Bengals. That's just the situation with the Cincinnati Bengals right there. They gave up defensively, they gave up a lot in favor of the offense, and they score points, but they just give up more. So it results in losses. The Browns, their season is done. They're 2-7. They've been done. They were done even when Deshaun Watson was playing. Deshaun Watson clearly wasn't Deshaun Watson, but of course he's out now. Achilles, speedy recovery for him. But the Cleveland Browns, they was done when Deshaun Watson was playing. So let's not act like they just got done when he got hurt. They were done when he was playing, when he wasn't hurt. So, and now to Darius Smith, they moved him at the deadline to the Detroit Lions. So if you the Bears, I mean not the Bears, if you the Browns, your season is over. You're last in the division. You only got 2 wins. Right now you one of the worst teams in football, and there's some teams out there that's bad. But the Cleveland Browns is one of the worst teams right now. Amari Cooper gone. So I'm not even sure who your wide receivers are outside of Elijah Moore, David Njoku, the tight end, and Jerry Jeudy. So there's nothing really to look at when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, but where they at in the standings in that division. That's last. So, like I said, man, I was surprised that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be leading this division. Like the old saying go, when you got 2 quarterbacks, you ain't got one. They started with Justin Fields. Well, initially Russell Wilson won the job, but he couldn't go for the season opener at Atlanta. So Justin Fields got the start. Justin Fields led them to a winning record until Russell Wilson took over. Now I still have my theories about why Russell Wilson took over when they were winning. I think they were like 4-2 when Russell Wilson took over for Justin Fields. But I ain't gonna get into that. That's just my theory. You know what I mean? If you want to see that, I get into that a little bit later, or I already have gotten into it. Just go to the sports page on IG, _U2_sports talk, and check some of the videos out. And check some of the stories out in the notes, and it's all there. But 7-2, damn good defense in Pittsburgh. So I didn't think that switching the quarterbacks like that will result in them leading the division at 7-2. They 4-1. Well, they ain't played a division game yet, but that's mean their schedule is gonna be backloaded. It's gonna be heavy with division games on the back end. That's the only team in that division that hasn't played a division game yet. So the second half of this season for them is gonna be, it's gonna be pretty backloaded with division games because they yet to play one. Now I was on the fence about Mike Tomlin. I thought that his offense, it needed to be more modern. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden you got Najee Harris running his ass off. Ever since since they put Russell Wilson in, you now got George Pickens going off. Even though they were winning with Justin Fields, now you got George Pickens going off. The defense still flying around, playing like one of the better defenses in the NFL right now. So if you the Pittsburgh Steelers, I really thought that this was going to be a time where you look at Mike Tomlin's job and be like, well, even though he ain't had a losing season, you got to look at it. I thought that it was going to be like, man, it's time to get more modernized. But since they got these 2 quarterbacks and they started with Justin Fields and they were winning 4-2 with him, and now they inserted Russell Wilson there, it pretty much it don't look as bad now. So I'm curious to see what are they going to do with the quarterback situation moving forward into next season, because both of those guys are free agents. So which one of those quarterbacks are they going to re-sign? Because both of them actually played well, or Russell Wilson is playing well, and Justin Fields played well when he was a starter. So are they going to re-sign one of these guys, or are they going to go in? I don't know which direction they go. Curious to know. But right now they 7-2, sitting at the top of their division. Baltimore behind them. We got some questions about the Baltimore Ravens defense, particularly the secondary. I understand it's Joe Burrow and just Jamar Chase, but both times they played those guys this year, whether it's been in Baltimore or Cincinnati, they've been lit up by Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And that ain't even counting T. Higgins. Because T. Higgins has been out, for extensive time. He's missed more games this season than he's played. And we in week 10. So I'm not sure when T. Higgins is coming back, but Baltimore Ravens, they got to fix their defense. They went out and acquired Tre'Davious White at the deadline. So not sure, when he going to start playing or how much that's going to help boost their secondary. But the secondary of the Baltimore Ravens ain't been looking like the secondary of the Baltimore Ravens that we've been known to know. So that could be an issue moving forward, especially when you're looking at the teams in the playoffs. Now, Derrick Henry been running his ass off too, but this is the year that they have to get it done. They have to not only make the AFC Championship game. I think they got to go to the Super Bowl because, like I said, the Super Bowl window ain't gonna always be open forever. Now you could be a playoff team for years and years, but the Super Bowl, that don't mean your Super Bowl window is open because you can make the playoffs. That just gives you a better chance to make the playoffs than the teams that didn't make the playoffs because obviously you made the playoffs and those other teams didn't. So if you got a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, then you go and add a Derrick Henry, And then you went and got Deontay Johnson at the trade deadline from Carolina. You have to make some noise in the playoffs this year. You have to get to the Super. This is the time that you should be getting, and you got a coach like Harbaugh. You should be getting. You got to get to the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? We can't keep saying the same things about the Baltimore Ravens every year and they not get in there. They got to get in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Lamar Jackson, we need to see you in the Super Bowl. That's just what it is for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar, we need to see you in the Super Bowl. AFC South, Texans leading the way 6-4. Now I didn't think that Doug Peterson would be on the hot seat because he is the more experienced coach in that division. Previously having won a Super Bowl. But they sitting last. They sitting at 2-8. And Tennessee sitting at 2-7. Tennessee, they will be in the market for a quarterback. No doubt about it. They moved D-Hop. He's over there in Kansas City. The Colts, I'm not sure what they're going to do because they can't get nothing consistent going with Anthony Richardson. He was the 4th overall pick. So they can't get a damn thing consistently going with him. Completion percentage ain't good. So now you got I think one of the DBs from the Indianapolis Colts said he don't think a lot of guys out there working as hard as they say they're working. So now you got some type of I don't know what you got going on in the locker room there. But if that's the case, then you got issues over there in Indy. But they sitting at second in division at 4-6. Like I said, Houston lost a tough one to the Detroit Lions. They picked Jared Goff off 5 times, and you still lost the game. Now, that's going to be an issue. You can't pick a guy off 5 times, you still lose the game. You pick somebody off 5 times, you just know that you're gonna convert some of those turnovers into points. Most of those turnovers should be converted into points. And you pick a guy off 5 times and you still lose the game. It don't matter how you lose, you still lose the game. You can lose the game by 1, 2, 3 points or whatever. You lost. And you pick Jared Goff off 5 times. That ain't good. CJ Stroud not quite having the year in his second year as he had last year in his rookie year. Nico Collins has been out. Stephon Diggs is out with he's done for the season, ACL. So you still got Joe Mixon running hard. You still got Tank Dell there. Mechie. So you still got some guys there. And you still got a solid defense. It's just that they in the offensive line has had some injuries. They lost some games in which I think they should have won. I think they should have won that game against the Jets. But hey, they didn't. It was at MetLife. They didn't win it. And I think they should have won the game against Detroit Lions, in which they picked off Jared Goff 5 times. So this is not quite exactly the same Texans team because they're dealing with some injuries, and then you kind of and I'm not expecting for Stroud. He's still a young quarterback, only in his second year. But what he did last year was beyond what most rookies do. You know what I'm saying? So at some point, you had to expect him to hit a certain wall. Not say hit a wall like he's going to stop growing as a quarterback in this league. He's going to continue to get better. But now that he's had a year of film and tape out there on him, you're going to expect his NFL DCs to make the adjustments on this type of guy. They're not just going to go out there and let him have the type of season he had as a rookie every single year. They got a year's film on him. Plus he had injuries along the offensive line. Stephon Diggs is out for the season with the torn ACL. Then you had Nico Collins out with, I think, a hamstring injury. I don't think he's back yet. He may be back this week or next, not sure, because they got the Dallas Cowboys coming up. And you still got a solid defense. So if you Houston, you're gonna win the division. As far as in the playoffs, what you're gonna do, I don't know. That depends on how the guys respond when they come back from injuries, and how much of CJ Stroud you're gonna see this year of what you saw of him last year. But as far as everybody else in the division, there's only one team coming out of that division. That's gonna be Houston, and that's it for the AFC South. The AFC West, you still got the Kansas City Chiefs undefeated. The Chargers sitting at 6-3. But one thing that stands out about the LA Chargers, they got a damn good defense. And now they're starting to kind of pick it up wide receiver wise because they lost Keenan Allen, they lost Mike Williams. So now he's starting with Justin Herbert You're starting to see Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston. You're starting to see these other guys get more involved. And now they're sitting at 6-3 with a damn good defense in Harbaugh's first year over there. So that's the surprise, and that for me sitting at 6-3. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know. It's hard to kind of say. Some people say sports is rigged, this, that, and the third. But the way the Kansas City Chiefs have been winning some of these games to remain undefeated, it kind of makes it hard not to believe that stuff ain't rigged and stuff ain't scripted. I'm just saying that they should have lost about 4 games this year. They shouldn't even be based off the Chargers 6-3. The Chiefs shouldn't even be first in their division. If you go back and look at how they've won some games, in which I'm not saying the first game was against the Baltimore Ravens, but Isaiah Likely, he just didn't get his toe in bounds in the back of the end zone. So that's one. Then you had the pass interference at Atlanta that wasn't called in the end zone on, I think it was Kyle Pitts. They didn't call that. Then you had a questionable call against the Cincinnati Bengals. Then you had some questionable calls against the Saints. And then you get bailed out by blocking a field goal last week against the Denver Broncos. So that's about 4 games that you should have lost that outside of the first game and last week with blocking the field goal. Those are some questionable calls in there that you benefited from. And there were some calls that wasn't made that should have been made. And there were some calls that was made that shouldn't have been made that Kansas City Chiefs have been the beneficiary of. That's why they're 9-0. So no surprise there, because Travis Kelce is not even going off. The wide receivers is banged up, even though they traded for D-Hop. Hollywood Brown banged up. Rashid Rice banged up. Isaiah Pacheco's banged up and out to the point where they had to go and get Kareem Hunt. So, it's a lot going into what Kansas City got going on, and it's making it hard for people not to be convinced that the NFL is not scripted by what we're seeing from the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs pretty much is taking over as being the new version of what the New England Patriots was with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. So it's hard to, and we know they got away with some stuff. I ain't going to get into that, but if you know, they got away with some stuff. And this is exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs is. This is the new version of what the New England Patriots used to be with Belichick and Tom Brady. That's all I'm saying. But as far as the Denver Broncos, they sitting at 5-5 with Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback. They are looking better than I actually thought, even though they're 500-5 team. But defensively, they are real solid defensively, especially with Pat Surtain and the crew on the defensive side of the ball. They real solid defensively. I think Bo Nix is only going to continue to get better with Sean Payton. I just think they need to add a couple more weapons, wide receiver-wise for him. Cortland Sutton, he started off the season slow, but he kind of started to pick it up a little bit in the last 2 games. And I think it was just partially he had a slow start because of who the quarterback was in Denver, and they were trying to get going with Bo Nix and figure things out. But they sitting at 5-5. I didn't think they were going to be a 500 team at this point during the season, but they're not going anywhere. They're not making the playoffs. There's only, they're not making the playoffs, so I'm not worried about them being a contender with nothing. Sitting at 5-5. This was just a season with a rookie quarterback to get him through his rookie season, and I don't think a lot was expected from the Denver Broncos anyway. They moved Jerry Jeudy to Cleveland, so it wasn't a whole lot expected. But I didn't expect them to be 5-5. I expect them to be worse than 5-5. But for them to be 5-5 right now is a positive sign moving forward, and that's all you can ask for and look for from a rookie quarterback in this first year with Sean Payton in this situation in that division. The Las Vegas Raiders sitting at 2-7. They got. Pick a place where they can go. They need wide receivers. They need a quarterback. Now, Antonio Pierce, will he continue to be the head coach in Vegas? I don't know. Hopefully so. Because this team seemed to play inspired football once they got rid of Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce took over. The team seemed to play with high spirit. They seemed to play for Antonio Pierce. Now, I don't know if they actually wanted to play for Antonio Pierce or they were just that damn happy that Josh McDaniels was out of there, because I think this was the last team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think they beat them last year in Kansas City, and that was the last time the Kansas City Chiefs lost a regular season game. This is the last time they lost a game, period. So Kansas City sitting at 2-7. They got Jacoby Myers serving as the number 1 wide receiver, so they're gonna have to upgrade the wide receiver position. after they moved on from Devontae Adams. Now you got Brock Bowers, a solid tight end on the offensive side of the ball that you can work with. Now they got to get a run game established. They haven't been able to do that with Zamir White. They're gonna have to establish an offensive line. You got Max Crosby up front. You got Christian Wilkinson up front. Now Christian Wilkinson's been out dealing with injury. I'm not sure if he's back or when he's coming back. So you got to get your secondary. You got work to do. If you Antonio Pierce and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now that you got Tom Brady as one of the minority owners, he was approved of that from the league. So you got work to do. You know what I mean? If you the LA Raiders, you sitting at 2-7, and you are one of a few teams. Well, hell, the Browns got 2 wins, the Jaguars got 2 wins, the Raiders got 2 wins, the Giants got 2 wins. So you in that company. You know, so you got a lot of work to do if you're the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's move on to the NFC East. Looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, they sitting at 7-2 right now. They 2-0 in the division. That's not a surprise. Because they added Saquon Barkley. They made a move for another wide receiver from Washington, a divisional rival team. You know, you haven't heard a lot from A.J. Brown because he's been dealing with injuries. Devontae Smith, you ain't heard a lot of. So I expected the Philadelphia Eagles to be at the top of the division. Looking at the moves they made, looking at the draft picks, and the additions that they made to the team, you know, moving off of Hassan Reddick. Well, that was an addition. That was a subtraction. But looking at how the Hassan Reddick situation has played out this season, that basically was a good move because he just got back for the Jets, and really the Jets defense ain't even had a positive impact. So, you know, that was a addition by subtraction, you know, getting rid of Hassan Reddick, you know. But the Eagles sitting at 7-2, they just went in and just beat all kinds of hell out of the division rivals, Dallas Cowboys, which ain't really saying much because they sit in third in the division at 3-6. Now the surprise team in this division is the Washington Commanders. I didn't think that the Washington Commanders. Now I knew Jake Daniels was a good quarterback, but I didn't think they were going to be sitting at 7-3 right now. And that was a tough loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers that they took this past weekend, which they could have won the game, you know. But looking at Jake Daniels and his Washington Commanders team, I think they're getting better defensively as the season goes. They wasn't this good defensively early on in the season, but they've gotten better as the season has gone. And outside of Terry McLaurin, you really can't even, and Zach Ertz, you really can't even name the pieces that he have on the offensive side of the ball. They brought in Austin Eckler, and then they got Brian Robinson. So as far as passing the ball, you can't really name the receiving core that they have outside of Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz, the tight end. But they sitting at 7-2. I think they're only going to get better. They made the move for Lattimore from the Saints at the trade deadline. That was a damn good move. That was a much-needed move to a part of the defense that they needed, which was secondary help, and they went and got a good DB, a good corner, and Marshawn Lattimore from the Saints. You know, they gave up what they gave up because they had it to give, and it was a player that they needed at a position that they needed on the defensive side of the ball. Now, if you Dan Quinn, a defensive-minded head coach, that's one thing that your defense is going to be. It's going to be good. Now, it didn't start good, like I said, but it has gotten better as the season has gone on. So, and then you get, like I said, the addition of Marshawn Lattimore over there on that side of the ball. That's going to help them tremendously because I think they've basically given up on Emmanuel Forbes. You know, Emmanuel Forbes didn't pan out to be what they thought he was going to be. And they, like I said, Marshawn Lattimore is going to come in and give them a boost in the secondary along with Jeremy Chin, who they brought over from Carolina in the offseason. So that's the surprise team in that division. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, your season is a wrap. Dak's season is a wrap. So who you go with between Cooper Rush and Trey Lance, I don't know, because you just got all kinds of hell beat out of you this past weekend at home. And a lot of people keep saying about the windows and the stadium and all this, and Jerry need to tint the windows, this, that, and third. But guess what? That ain't the reason you lost. You got all kinds of hell beat out of you. You was continuing to get the hell beat out you when the sun set. It wasn't even no sun coming through the windows, and the Philadelphia Eagles were still beating the hell out you. So it don't seem to be an issue for the other teams as you sitting at 3-6. Right now, we don't want to hear nothing from Jared. We tired of hearing Jared talk. We just want to see Jared make moves. And I continue to tell y'all, Cowboy fans, Jerry Jones is saying just enough to market that Dallas Cowboy brand to the fans to keep that brand worth billions of dollars. That's what he's doing, because you can't even look at the moves that he made and make it make sense as to make y'all think that y'all would even have a chance to be a Super Bowl contender this year. You came into the season, you had CeeDee Lamb this offseason holding out. Now you made gave Dak Prescott $60 million a year, and he's out for the season now with the injury. You don't have a run game. Your offensive line ain't looked as good as it should have been. It hasn't been looking in previous years. You don't have a number 2 wide receiver. You just gave Carolina a 4th-round pick for a guy that couldn't even get on the field in Carolina enough to make a significant difference when there were other wide receivers that went for less. So Michael Parsons is coming up. You just got all kind of problems you got to deal with out there in Dallas. Now, how you gonna talk your way out of this? I don't know. But now you talk Dallas Cowboy fans into believing that every year is the year. So maybe it is a way you can talk your way out of it. But this ain't the year for Dallas. Just go ahead and look forward to the draft. Go ahead and look forward to the free agency and the moves that you need to make because it's a wrap for this season. And it's a wrap for the Giants. Brian DeBall, you may be out of here after the season, and so will Daniel Jones. You lost to the Carolina Panthers over there in Germany. I don't understand I don't understand why you so tied into Daniel Jones. He ain't the guy, and by him not being the guy, it's going to drag Brian DeBall down and ultimately out of there, in my opinion, because he was one of the coaches that was on the hot seat that I mentioned before week 1 of the season when I was giving my rundown list on head coaches on the hot seat this year. And Dennis Allen is one of them as well. He's already been fired. So the Giants, Cowboys, y'all ain't going nowhere. 2-C. Y'all battling for last in that division. And it wouldn't surprise me if Dallas finished last because you got Cooper Rush, who couldn't complete nothing but screen passes and short yardage passes. Couldn't complete a damn thing down the field against the Eagles defense. And when he did, he got picked or damn near picked. So those two teams, we're not looking for you to do nothing this year, but play the rest of the season because that's what the schedule calls for you to do. And get to the end of the season so you can go ahead and prep your offseason, which you shouldn't be starting to prep your offseason now because you ain't doing a damn thing with the rest of this season. NFC North, like I said, the Detroit Lions. All roads lead through Detroit. Detroit is going to be the team, in my opinion, that gets the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I think all roads are going to have to lead through Detroit. You're going to go to Detroit and actually beat Detroit. Detroit just came off a road victory at Houston in which Jared Goff had an absolute horrible game, throwing 5 picks, and they still found a way to win that game on the road in Houston. They sitting at 8-1 right now. They've shown you they can win games running up the scoreboard. They've shown you they can win close games, low-scoring games. They've shown you that they can have bad games offensively and turn the ball over and still find a way to come back and win the game. They've shown you 3 different ways in which they can win games. So I don't know how you're going to beat a team that can show you different ways to win games in which they're not even playing their best. And then, even when they do play their best, the stats may not show it, but you look at the scoreboard and they putting up 35-plus points. And you thinking a team that's putting up 35-plus points, that the stats will be outstanding. But sometimes the stats are not even that outstanding. They're just average or slightly below average. But they're doing it on both sides of the ball. They capitalize the defense. Well, they cause them turnovers defensively, and they're turning those turnovers and short fields into actual points. So when your teams are winning games like that, both at home and on the road, it's tough to beat. And it also helps Detroit that they don't play a lot of games outside this year because, well, first of all, half of the games they're going to play are going to be at home, which they have a dome. So half of their games is going to be in a dome. Then you got go to Minnesota. That's a dome. This season they played they just played in a dome against Houston. So a lot of teams that they're playing are either in domes or in warm weather. So that's this season. It ain't going to be like that every season, but that's beneficial. But if you Detroit, all roads lead through Detroit, lead through Motown. I got Detroit going to the Super Bowl, and all roads got to lead through Motown. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of teams that can come in there and do what Detroit is doing to get through Minnesota 7-2. They're right there on the heels of the Detroit Lions. But Sam Darnold, I think he's kind of slightly coming back down. Even though they got a 7-2 record, they went down there and barely pulled out a win against Jacksonville with no Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones started that game. Christian Kirk is done for the season, collarbone. So if Trevor Lawrence had played that game, they probably would have lost. But that still doesn't take away from the 7-2 record that they have, or would be that they now have. So I just don't think. And they got a good defense. They got a solid defense. So T.J. Hawkinson is now back in the mix. We know what Justin Jefferson can do. But I just don't see this team. They get a good regular season team this year because of what Sam Darnold is doing. But I don't think they're going to make a ton of noise in the playoffs like they're making in the regular season. It's just something about Sam Darnold, which I think that he's going to, when it gets to that point, he's going to come back down to reality. And now I'm not knocking what he's doing right now, but I just think once he gets in the playoffs, he's going to come back to being what most people know Sam Darnold to be. Green Bay, you're sitting at 6-3. In Chicago, 4-5. Now, if you're the Chicago Bears, you got issues with Caleb Williams. There's 2 weeks in a row you failed to score a touchdown. Last week you scored 9 points against Arizona. This week you only scored 3 against New England. Now, Caleb Williams, you was the number 1 overall pick. You lost to Jaden Daniels, who was the 2nd overall pick, and then you now lost to Drake May, who was the 3rd overall pick. So you, the 1st overall pick, have lost games to the 2nd and 3rd overall pick quarterbacks. They fired the offensive coordinator. He's out of there. Now, I'm going to say this about Caleb Williams. I think that sometimes, not just Caleb Williams, but young quarterbacks in general, I think sometimes when you set a quarterback up with that many weapons and do what they did in the offseason for a rookie quarterback, I think that adds additional pressure to a rookie quarterback because they're looking at it as, even though you're a rookie, we expect you to come in here and take this franchise off right away because of what we gave you to come in and work with. We brought DJ Moore's here. We drafted Rome Odunze. We brought in Keenan Allen, and we got Cole Kmet, the tight end, and DeAndre Swift, the running back. What they didn't address is building up that offensive line. So I think that put additional pressure on a rookie knowing that he has that many weapons to work with, because when you have that many weapons to work with that wasn't already there, they went and got these guys. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like this was a team that was built, that they drafted these guys. These guys had already been there, and he stepped into a situation where these guys were drafted there. The only one that was drafted there was Cole Kmet, and then you're looking at Rome Odunze, but he's a rookie. So those guys that haven't been there 4 or 5 years that was drafted there. These guys they went and actually got in free agency in the offseason, through trade and free agency and drafting. So that puts extra pressure on a rookie quarterback, in my opinion. Now, a lot of those things that Caleb Williams was doing at USC, he can't get away with it at the NFL level because the windows that he was throwing in at USC are much smaller now on the NFL level. All that backyard football, running around, throwing the ball up for grabs and making immaculate plays, yeah, it looked good at USC, but now you're playing with the best of the best. A lot of those guys that you played with at USC and played against when you was at USC, a lot of those guys didn't make it to this level. And if they did make it to this level, a lot of those guys aren't starters at this level. So now that window that you were throwing into in college, that window at the NFL level ain't as big at this level as it was at the college level. So now if you Caleb Williams, you got to start, you got to realize that, and I think if you're the Chicago Bears, it's going to be, and there were already rumors of, do Caleb Williams even want to be in Chicago before he even got drafted to Chicago? So now you got to look at, this is why I think the NIL plays a part in professional sports, because these guys are now getting the money before they get to the NFL level. So a lot of these guys come from situations where they didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth. And the main thing they want to do was secure the bag. But now that these guys are getting this NIL money and getting a lot of it, they're securing the bag at younger ages. So now the work ethic seems to fall off once they get the bag. You once had to wait until you got to the NFL level or the professional level to get the bag. But now that they're getting it at the college level, the work ethic to continue on the professional level probably ain't quite as there as it would have been because now they secured the bag. So, I'm not sure if that's the case with Caleb Williams because now the body language on a lot of his teammates is ain't looking the same. DJ Moore, I'm just talking from the outside looking in. I'm not in the inside. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not in the organization. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing from the outside looking in and what's being reported. DJ Moore, his body language don't look the same. And DJ Moore is a good, solid receiver. He's a damn good receiver. And the body language on him out there on the field don't look the same. These past few weeks for him ain't been the best. So, and I think that he's already kind of expressed that he think the Chicago Bears should have stuck with Justin Fields, because I think Justin Fields and DJ Moore had started or had built a report last year. You know what I mean? So I think DJ Moore was comfortable with Justin Fields, and now he has to learn a whole different quarterback. And, I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is a diva, but maybe he probably feeling diva vibes from Caleb Williams. If you DJ Moore, he may be feeling like that. So now he got to go through this with a new rookie quarterback when he already expressed how he felt about Justin Fields. And he kind of, in my opinion, wanted Justin Fields to stay, wanted Chicago to keep Justin Fields. You could have done that and just used it and bulked up the offensive line. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, coming into a situation, it's not a lot of teams that can go out and make that many moves over the course of an offseason for a rookie quarterback that they drafted number 1 overall. You know what I mean? Usually when you drafted number 1 overall, you come into a bad situation. But Caleb Williams being number 1 overall pick, he came into a good situation. Not a lot of teams are in position to make that many moves or that significant amount of moves that Chicago Bears made for the rookie quarterback. So now there's additional pressure for you to come in and win now because of what you see this organization has done for you. It's a gift and a curse. You know what I mean? But I think that's what's going on in Chicago. They can't keep firing coaches and coordinators. At some point they got to look in the mirror and get it right. And I think that's what's going on in Chicago right now. You know what I mean? Moving on to the NFC South, the Falcons 6-4, they're gonna win the division. They're sitting at 4-1 in the division as they just lost to the New Orleans Saints. I think they're still gonna win the division. Now, what do they do in the playoffs? I don't know because Kirk Cousins is not really known to win games in the playoffs. He's known to win games in the regular season and have good regular seasons, but as far as winning in the playoffs, we don't know. You're looking at the pass rush for Carolina. It's been non-existent. Matthew Judon, he hasn't panned out to be quite upfront with the pass rush that they wanted him to be or supposed to be. Justin Simmons, the back end of their defense, I think they're vulnerable. I think they need to go and get another. Well, it's too late now. You got to wait to the offseason. But I think there's going to be an issue in the playoffs because you're looking at teams in the NFC that you're going to possibly have to see. And like I said, all roads are going to lead through Detroit. So you possibly want to see Detroit, Philly, Washington, whoever come out the NFC West, whether it's San Francisco or the LA Rams or whoever out there, or the Arizona Cardinals, which, like I said, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to maintain. If they do, they do. But I just think that it's going to be some more experience that's going to kind of get it together at the end of the season and take over and win that division. So if you Atlanta, I think there's going to be one area of concern on the defensive side of the ball. Is pressure on the quarterback up front and your secondary. In my opinion, despite having Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates there, you know what I mean? I think it goes up a notch in the postseason. Now, if you Tampa, you were right there neck and neck with Atlanta until your two receivers went down. Of course, Chris Godwin, praying for a speedy recovery. He's done for the season with the ankle injury that he suffered against Baltimore. And you got a hamstring issue that Mike Evans is dealing with. Now, I think they're on a bye week this week. So he got this week to rest up. And then I'm not sure if he's going to come back the following week or the week after that. I haven't looked at their schedule. I just know they got a bye week this week because Mike Evans on my fantasy team. But you're gonna get Mike Evans back at some point. Now I don't know if they were able or if there were anybody out there that they could have went and got wide receiver wise at the trade deadline that was on a 1-year deal, because you're gonna get Chris Godwin back. So there's pretty much no need to have a receiver come in with 2-3 years on a deal, something like that. But Tampa, I think they doing all they can do with what they got to work with right now. That was a big blow losing two of your top two receivers. You lost your number one and your number two receiver. Mike Evans will be back, but I'm not sure if, the impact he's going to have right away coming from a hamstring injury. You know what I'm saying? But if you're the Saints, you're sitting at 3-7, and the Panthers sitting at 3-7. And the Saints, you just came off a win, and the Panthers, you just came off a win against the New York Giants over in Germany. Now, one thing I will say about the Carolina Panthers is Bryce Young, he needed that time to sit. Now, I'm not saying Bryce Young looks great, but he looks better than he did before he sat. He's starting to see the field better. He's starting to trust the offensive line and step up into the pocket because the offensive line in Carolina is better this year than it was last year. You got a run game with Chuba Hubbard now. So with that run game, he's able to buy more time because Chuba Hubbard right now, last time I checked, he was top 5 in rushing. And he just got a contract extension. And then you get Jonathan Brooks whenever he comes back in the mix. You move Deontay Johnson to Baltimore. You move Jonathan Mingo, the other receiver, to Dallas. You got a young guy in Coker who has a high ceiling and a lot of promise. You got your first round pick, Xavier Legette. You got your tight end, Sanders, that you drafted out of Texas. That's a big boy. That's a big dude. So now you got some pieces that you can grow with. You got a young core that you can grow with. You got a run game. You got an improved offensive line. Now, what's going to be the issue, or what is the issue, is Carolina got to they gave up a lot of defense to put players around Bryce on the offense, just for them to bench Bryce. And then Andy Dalton had an accident in which they had to go back to Bryce, and they've been with Bryce since as a starter. So now if you Dave Canals moving forward, you now have something to build off of. You've gotten Jonathan Mingo out, traded him, and Deontay Johnson traded. You're probably more than likely going to pay J.C. Horn. Well, I know you're going to pay J.C. Horn. You're going to pay J.C. Horn. So now you need to bolster the defense. You need to bring in a defensive coordinator because I can't remember the guy's name, but he came from Denver. That 3-4 ain't it, in my opinion. That ain't it. That ain't it. In my opinion, you need to fire him after the season and work on the defense and get out of that 3-4. Get out of that 3-4 scheme because you don't really have the personnel for it. And just like every other team, they've been dealing with some injuries as well. But at least what they're doing now is they're just working on this season for next season. They know this season is over with, so they're looking to see what they need to add with what they got, who they're going to keep, who the chemistry-wise, who mesh well with what they got. And they got a young nucleus to go by. You know, you got 2 running backs because Miles Sanders, 3 with Miles Sanders, but I'm saying 2 because Miles Sanders, in my opinion, his offseason comes, he's going to be out of there. It's going to be the Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard show in the backfield in Carolina. I think they're going to recreate the duo of what Carolina once had in Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. That's what they're going to recreate with Chuba Hubbard since they just extended and locked him in. And now you got Jonathan Brooks on a rookie deal coming back, battling back. And he's on the active roster now. They've activated him, but he just hasn't played yet. Coming from the ACL injury he suffered. And they took him as the first running back off the board that the Carolina Panthers drafted. So they're going to recreate that in the backfield. Hoping that Bryce continues to take the next step forward. And he has done some things better since being benched that he's come back that he wasn't doing prior to being benched. He's seeing the field better. His mechanics and footwork is better. He's stepping up in the pocket. He's not running out of the play and running himself into a sack or running himself into a bad play, and then he has to force the ball somewhere in a tight window and it's get intercepted. He's not doing that anymore as much. So he's starting to trust what his eyes see. He's starting to trust his footwork. He's starting to release the ball on time. So that's a good sign if you're Carolina. So, there are teams who are just as bad, if not worse than Carolina right now, in my opinion. Uh, like I said, Cleveland is bad. Tennessee is bad. Both New York teams, the Jets and the Giants, are bad. The Saints are bad. All those the Las Vegas Raiders, all those teams are just as bad, if not worse, than the Carolina Panthers. But at least if and a lot of people, a lot of these analysts, they ain't gonna get on here and say that because they talk so much shit about Carolina. Now, I mean, this is the first time they had a 2-game win streak in about 2 years. They got a bye week this week, and coming out of the bye week, I think they're at home against Kansas City. So we'll see, how they respond and finish out the season. That'll say a lot about, the toughness and the fight of this team. Like I said, they definitely gonna have to bolster their defense. But they got a young nucleus on the offensive side of the ball, and they starting to kind of build some chemistry with those guys. But they're not going nowhere this season, so it don't matter. Now you're looking at the NFC West. The surprise team out there, even though they're 6-4, is the Arizona Cardinals. They 2-0 in the division, but right on their heels is San Francisco at 5-4. Now, I had said that I didn't think that they were going to finish the season at the top of the division, but, I thought a more experienced team, a more veteran team that's been there and done that, such as the 49ers or the Rams, I think that they were going to kind of, one of those teams were going to overtake Arizona. And I still think that either probably more likely to be San Francisco because now they got Chris McCaffrey back. So one of those two teams, San Francisco or the LA Rams, is going to take over that number one spot out there in the NFC West. I just think it comes from it's more of a veteran team. It's more of a team that's been there, done that. It's more of a team that knows what's at stake. And they know, and they've been in those situations and they know what they got to do. And Arizona's new to it. With Kyler Murray, they have it. They got a rookie receiver, Marvin Harris. And they don't. That head coaching ain't really. He hasn't been there and done that like Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay has. He doesn't have that quarterback that's been there and done that like the Rams have and Matthew Stafford and like San Fran have and Brock Purdy. They don't have a Debo or Cooper Kupp such as those other teams have. So that's why I think Arizona is going to kind of scale back slightly and they won't finish the season winning that division. Now if they do, they do, but I just don't believe they will. I think one of those teams, either San Fran or LA, gets it together and takes over that one. Probably, like I said, San Francisco with Chris McCaffrey coming back. But if you the Seattle Seahawks, you sitting at 4-5, you will be in the market for a quarterback this draft. You will go and get a quarterback this draft. So not sure what's going on with DK Metcalf, but you have a young, solid receiver in Jackson Smith and Jigma out of Ohio State. I think they need to continue to feature him. But you got to get the quarterback situation right. I think they will be in the market for a quarterback. And there's no knock against Geno Smith. I just think that they're going to go and get a quarterback. You need to get a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Because Geno ain't going to be there forever. And I mean, you see what you can do with Geno and you see where you can do better without him. So, they're gonna get a quarterback. There's no question about it in my mind. They're gonna get a quarterback. But that's just mid-season report on some teams that's pretenders and some teams that's just just gauging where we at right now mid-season. Some surprises in each division. Some players that's not really been doing what they should be doing. Some teams that ain't been doing what they should be doing. We've had some coaches get fired this year. Robert Saleh, Dennis Allen. We still got some on the hot seat. Mike McCarthy, I think, is still on the hot seat. Brian DeBall with the New York Giants is on the hot seat. And depending on what goes on with the Buffalo Bills, and Sean McDermott could be on the hot seat. You know what I mean? So, it's still some things that's could happen. There's some teams that could get hot late. There's gonna be a team, and it always is that gets in when somebody else is lose or they don't make it because they didn't win a game. They get help, but they don't do what they supposed to do and win their game. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be interesting to see how the remainder of the season fold out. Some teams is looking forward to or prepping for next season. You know, they not because they know they're not gonna do nothing this season, so they prepping for next season. And then there's some teams that's gonna try to salvage their season even though they got no chance. You know what I'm saying? So we just anxious. I'm anxious to see how the rest of the season play out and unfold. But that's I'm about to get out of here. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Make sure y'all follow, subscribe. It's scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. If you want to follow me personally, it's Ralph_Sneaks on IG. Follow the sports page, it's damn_YouTube_sports talk. If you click the link in the bio, you can subscribe through that link in the bio to YouTube. Once you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified when new content releases. If you want to follow over there on X, it's damn YouTube Sports Talk. Until the next one, man, y'all be safe.